Now to Foster Friess, the power behind so many Republican powers that be as well. Foster, and thank you for your patience with that. Do you think that this effort on the part of Steve Bannon to sort of target for primary challenges a number of establishment Republicans is backfiring? Already the president has indicated that among those targets, like John Barrasso of Wyoming, Deb Fischer, and I think Roger Wicker in Mississippi, he is for them. He doesn't want to see any primary challenges. Where does this stand?
Well, I agree with both President Trump and Bannon. I mean, Steve Bannon is one of my heroes, as is President Trump. And there are some senators that would be better replaced. But my point that I made today, entitled "I'm battling Steve Bannon," I'm not battling him. I just think our efforts should be spent instead on getting the Democrats who are in the 10 states where President Trump won, having them replaced with Republicans. So my emphasis is replacing Democrats, and Steve Bannon is replacing incumbents, so we both have a role to play.
All right, but what if Steve Bannon says, no, I disagree, Mr. President? What if there gets to be a fracture in their relationship?
Well, I think they're both very strong-willed men, and I think we have a lot of disagreements between strong-willed men that doesn't destroy the relationship. I'm not in favor of President Trump's current status on my 34-year-old Hispanic friend in Jackson Hole, who is an accountant for a nonprofit, that he might be sent back because he came here illegal at age 5. I think that's if Hillary Clinton can get away with a 7-year statute of limitations, not be prosecuted for any of the skullduggery she may have been doing, then I think this guy should have the same statute of limitations for being brought here at age 5. So I'm sure President Trump is not going to throw me under the bus. In fact, he's supporting Barrasso, and I'm contemplating to run against Barrasso, but doesn't change my admiration for him.
Do you talk much with the president?
Well, right after Hillary Clinton conceded, he called me at 3 o'clock in the morning, offered me a job. When I asked him what is the pay and what's the health benefits, he hung up on me. So I haven't.
that didn't go anywhere. Huh?
No, it didn't go anywhere. But I would like to have more conversation. I was supposed to maybe meet with him yesterday and wasn't able to set up about Kirkuk and the attack on Erbil. I think it's an unbelievable disgrace that we're giving Abrams tanks and Humvees to the Baghdad government, and they're attacking our most valued ally, the Kurds. And I'm surprised that the media and more people haven't spoken out against it. It's an absolute tragedy, and I'm ashamed of our American position on that, or the State Department, of not coming to the Kurds' aid. Does
the president know about this?
Well, that's why they wanted me to meet with him, because they think, he's drinking from a fire hose. Yeah. And I don't know how much information he's getting, but they're our closest ally. And now the government in Baghdad has said we're marching on Erbil. This is a capital of the Kurdish region, and these friends are wondering, where are we? They're the ones who fought for us. They're the ones who bloodied the nose of ISIS much earlier, and have been on our side since day one. And where are we when they need us? It's an absolute disgrace, and I'm surprised the media talks more about how many calls President Trump has made to parents of soldiers been killed. I mean, I don't get it. It's a tragedy.
You're right. We could go on about that for quite a while, but I did want to pick your brain a little bit on the markets. I mean, your rise, of course, as a great value investor and someone who weeded out value in the middle of an environment where there didn't seem to be much. You must be impressed by the broad nature of this rally, particularly over the last year. Some are citing the president's election, some improving earnings, some both. Does this market look toppy to you? In other words, do you share the anxiety of a Treasury Secretary Mnuchin and some others that if tax reform, tax cuts, whatever you want to call it, don't go through, that it could sell off quickly?
Well, I told all my potential clients, never invest in the stock market. Never invest in the stock market. Invest in individual businesses. So if we look at the thousands of companies
that means don't invest in like an ETF that mirrors the Dow or the S&P 500?
Exactly.
Really?
Or these. I've never been a big fan of the these index funds,
Right.
because it allows you to invest in 30% of the companies are disasters. So I've always been a fan, and why we succeeded, because we were detectives to try to find out how are these companies going to do better than people expect, and we're very careful of the prices we paid. I'm concerned that many of these companies are like the tulip bulb craze, where you remember they were trading tulip bulbs on the Dutch exchange, and then one tulip bulb went for 10 tons of hay and whatever, and suddenly someone came with a wheelbarrow and the whole thing collapsed. So I believe there is some risk in many of these stocks which are selling on emotion rather than on earnings. There are three things that guided our technique, Neil, and the three things that determine the price of a stock are earnings, earnings, and earnings. And some of these companies just don't fit that criteria.
You know, maybe our mutual friend Ben Stein disagrees with that premise, that a lot of individual investors aren't as smart or as savvy as you are, and that if they just were to invest in an aggregate, like something that mirrors the Dow, the S&P, the NASDAQ, the Russell 2000, et cetera, they'd be richly rewarded over time, and that's how they should play it. You say what?
Well, I say they'd be much more richly awarded if they got rid of all the sick companies that comprise those indexes.
But they wouldn't know what they are. They wouldn't know what they are, right?
That's why people needed me, Neil.
Oh, I got it. There we go. All right.
Why do you suppose I took $800 of accumulated leave pay, and now I have my own Challenger 300, a couple of ranches? Because there are people out there who understand how to sort the wheat from the chaff, so to speak. So I think that's an important way to go. And you see, if you look at these overall, let's say you had an index that had all the Dow Jones stocks. You know, those values often are determined by what's happening to interest rates, what's happening to foreign relations, and are not always tied to the individual dynamics of that company. And so these index are more emotional. Well, look what happens to the price of gold. Just a reflection of, hey, what's going to happen to inflation? So everybody runs out and buys gold. People have a hard time predicting inflation. We know it's going to be higher, but yet look at the deflation we've had. Look what airline fares are now versus 10 years ago. So I never liked investing in these gross numbers. It's just like I don't like talking about people in groups. You know, the other day I was so annoyed where Hillary Clinton chastised President Trump for attacking black athletes. He never said anything about black athletes. In fact, many white guys probably took a knee too. And we need to get to a society where if we want to return civility, we not only have to be nice to each other, but we have to confront this kind of demagoguery. It's indecent, and we should call it out. Senator Corker has nasty things to say about President Trump. You know, I grew up taking care of 140 head of Hereford steers and then moved to the West. So the code of the West is a big part of me. And you ride for the brand, not the Trump brand, the Republican brand, but you ride for the American brand. And I think we got more people on both parties to need to do that.
All right, but, you know, Corker is saying that the president went after him, and the president said Corker went after him. They're like my two teenage sons. So they say, well, he started it. I mean, how do you stop it?
Well, I don't say teenage sons. I'd say maybe 8th graders. Teenage sons probably would be figure that out by now.
Well, believe me, mine have not, but maybe they will. We'll see. One
of my favorite Bible verses is never return evil for evil. And another one is Galatians 5:22, which is powerful. The fruit of the Spirit are peace, patience, kindness, joy, self-control. Against these there is no law. Self-control. I said, what's that all about? And suddenly dawned on me, no longer can I say to my wife, Lynn, you made me angry, because then she's in control. So I've gotten this gift that I can decide if I'm going to be offended or angered, and that's my decision, not somebody else's.
All right. Well, I want to quote my son, who's famous for saying, I know you are, but what am I? So it's kind of along the same biblical reality. Foster, thank you very much. Always good seeing you, my friend. Thank you.
I miss you, and Godspeed to your career. You're a real hero to the American public, so keep up this wonderful show you're doing.
Could I get that on tape again? I just want to get that on tape.